guys, it's Xander here, and we are back looking at Modern. This is a Jund, Wrenn and Six deck that I put together for you guys. Affectionately nicknamed Seismic Wrenn, we are going with the synergies between Seismic Assault and Wrenn and Six. Wrenn and Six, if you're not familiar, is a card that has jumped in popularity to the point of absurdity. It is a 2-mana Planeswalker that I will read in just a second, but the point I want to make is the cost. It is now over $80. It's fucking stupid. So Wrenn and Six is for 2, a red and a green. It's a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. With his +1 ability, his, her, its, there. With their +1 ability being +1, return up to 1 target land card from your graveyard to your hand. Their -1 ability being -1, Wrenn and Six deals 1 damage to any target. And their -7 ability is you get an emblem with instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard have retrace, which means that you can cast them from your graveyard, but as an additional cost you have to discard a land. Now there are 25 lands in the deck, and there is a shitload of ways to get them back, but we're also caring about the lands that we have in our hands because we want to be able to discard them and ping for damage with Seismic Assault, which we're running in a 4 of. So Seismic Assault is for 3 red. It's an enchantment that sits on the battlefield, and it has discard a land card. Seismic Assault deals 2 damage to target creature or player. With 4 copies of Life from the Loam, we're able to get our cards that we're discarding back from our graveyard fairly easily, and we can also dredge it, which is insane. So Life from the Loam is for 2, 1 and a green at sorcery speed. You return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand, and dredge 3. So if you would draw a card, instead you may put exactly 3 cards from the top of your library into your graveyard, and then if you do that, you return this card from your graveyard to your hand. Otherwise, you draw a card. So if we have the Life in the Loam in hand and we have the Seismic Assault out, we're able to discard 3 lands, immediately play Life from the Loam, bring them back to our hand, and discard them again, pinging for 12 damage from Seismic Assault. To help us still get value after we've dredged stuff from the bin, we have 3 copies of Eternal Witness, which is for 3, 1 and 2 green. It's a 2/1 human shaman with when it enters the battlefield, you return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Going heavy on the land synergy with 3 copies of Tireless Tracker, which is for 3, 2 and a green. It's a 3/2 human scout with whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you investigate. So you get to put a colorless clue artifact token onto the battlefield. That token has pay 2, sacrifice it, and draw a card. And then whenever you sacrifice a clue, you can put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker. Some cycling lands in the form of Tranquil Thicket and Forgotten Cave. Basically just lands that come in tapped, and they can tap for 1 mana of their respective colors. And for 1 green you can cycle the Thicket, or for 1 red you can cycle the Cave. And with the Wrenn and Six we're going to be able to get those back if we need them. Insanely cool synergies. 4 copies of Birds of Paradise, which is for 1 green. It's a 0/1 bird with flying, with tap add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Mana fixing is important in this deck, and us ramping so that we can get ahead of our opponent is something that's really important as well. So the birds is definitely something that's going to help us do that. 4 copies of Faithless Looting, which is for 1 red at sorcery speed. You draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards. It also has Flashback 3, 2 and a red to play it again from your graveyard and then exile it. 3 copies of Assassin's Trophy. In here is an awesome bit of removal. Being able to hit any permanent is fantastic. Assassin's Trophy is for 2, a black and a green. It's at instant speed, you destroy target permanent an opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle their library. 3 copies of Shadow of the Grave, which is for 2, 1 and a black at instant speed. Return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn. It does seem a little win more, but on the turns where we can Seismic Assault and then Life from the Loam, and then Shadow from the Grave as well, it's going to turn into 18 damage to our opponent. So this is very, very much going to be able to just ping our opponent to death, turning it into a potential turn 3 or turn 4 kill very easily. Shadow of the Grave just absolutely bonkers with the Seismic Assault, and it also gives us something else that allows us to get our lands back from the grave if we don't have the Life from the Loam, or if we can't seem to get to it. And also the immediate synergy that we get from Faithless Looting as well, being able to discard anything we want, it doesn't matter because we can just get it back with the Shadow from the Grave anyway. Some key removal pieces in the form of 3 Lightning Bolts and 2 copies of Blast Zone. Lightning Bolt for 1 red at instant speed, you deal 3 damage to target creature or player. And the Blast Zone, which is a land that we're going to be able to keep bringing back again and again through Wrenn and Six's +1 ability. Blast Zone comes in with a counter on it. It's got tap, add 1 generic. It's got pay 2x and put X charge counters on it. And then finally, it's got pay 3, tap, and sack it to destroy each non-land permanent with converted cost equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone. So for every 2 we pay and tap it, we put a charge counter on it. It already comes in with 1. This thing comboed with Wrenn and Six is just removal after removal after removal. Adding to the super repressive lands that we're going to be able to loop through Wrenn and Six's abilities and the Life from the Loam and all that is the 4 copies of Ghost Quarter, which has tap, add 1 generic, or it's got tap, sacrifice it to destroy target land. Its controller may search his or her library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle his or her library. It can just absolutely lock our opponents out of the game depending on the matchups. A lot of these decks running super complicated land bases just can't deal with this kind of removal on their non-basic lands. basics. This deck's no exception, really. I probably should be running a few basics in here, but I just haven't put them in here. I haven't needed them so far, but this is another example of a deck that would suffer very heavily if they were to do the same thing to us. 4 copies of Wooded Foothills. Tap, pay 1 life to sacrifice it and search for a mountain or forest. Put it on the battlefield. Stomping Ground, mountain forest, comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life. 3 copies of Blood Crypt, a swamp mountain, comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life. 2 copies of Overentomb, a swamp forest, comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life. And a couple of copies of Verdant Catacombs, just to finish off the land base here. Tap, pay 1 life, sack it, search for a swamp or forest. Checking out the sideboard here, some targeted discard in the form of Inquisition of Kozilek and Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is for 1 black at sorcery speed. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-lane card from it. That player discards that card, and you lose 2 life. Inquisition is similar, but can only target something converted costs 3 or less, and you don't lose the life. 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus, because graveyards matter. For 1, it's an artifact with tap. Target player exiles a card from his or her graveyard. You can pay 1, exile it, and exile all cards from all graveyards, and draw a card. In the more aggro matchups, 2 copies of Anger the Gods for 3, 1 and 2 red at sorcery speed. Anger the Gods deals 3 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. 2 copies of Ayula's Influence. So this is for when the pinging damage to their face won't work. So if we're up against something like Leyline of Sanctity, so they've just got hexproof and we can't target them with something like Seismic Assault, it just hoses this deck. We can't really do much. But if we sideboard in this, it gives us the potential to just discard a land and just generate creatures in abundance. So for 3 green, it's an enchantment with discard a land, create a 2/2 green bear creature token. Really dependent on the matchup as to whether or not this is relevant, but it does help us in a jam. 2 copies of Tectonic Reformation, which is for 2, 1 and a red. It's an enchantment with each land card in your hand has cycling 1 red. And it also has cycling for 2. This is something that you'll probably put in more in the control matchups as well. Just being able to cycle through our deck trying to get to the key pieces that we need. Couple of copies of Scavenging, again for the graveyard matchups. For 2, 1 and a green. It's a 2/2 ooze with pay 1 green, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, you put a +1 counter on Scavenging Ooze and you gain 1 life. The gain life is no joke, but the ability to just pick cards out of their graveyard can be really relevant, again, depending on your matchup. That is the sideboard, and that is the main board, and this deck is a hell of a lot of fun. I hope you guys play it. Let me know in the comments if you agree, disagree with the cards that I've picked, and if you get a chance to play the deck, let me know how you went with it. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to see new videos as they were released. If you like what I do and you want to support the channel, you can throw me $1 on my Patreon at patreon.com/SandersQuest. And I will see you guys in the next video. Keep questing, guys.